Alright, so I've just installed an all-new lift kit with adjustable control arms, track bars, and a tummy tuck. So what I have to do now is a full 4x4 alignment. So I'm going to copy a lot of this video from a similar video made by Dirt Lifestyle. I'm not trying to copy them, I just like doing my own videos. Helps me remember, and I'm going to go into like one or two things more than they did. But anyway, so to start out, just a good starting point is just kind of try and make sure each matching control arm is about the same length, just to help you out. And then the only other thing I would say to start out before we actually start doing measurements is try and look and make sure that your wheels are kind of where you want them in the wheel well. It's slightly a little bit up to you, and you'll adjust this by extending the lower control arms. And again, try and make them about the same on the other side, just as a starting point. But you can measure, I guess, like from here to here and here to here, and try and center the wheel in the wheel well, and do that in the front. And so then once we're done with that, we're ready to actually start the alignment. And I got all these special tools that were recommended by Dirt Lifestyle, and I'll link these in the description too, but yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, so what I'm doing first is I've got this small laser level, and I'm trying to get a reference point so I can measure the distance to the front axle so I can get it, get both lower control arms the same. So I've got it lined up with this hole right here. You can see it's right at the center there. And now we're going to go around to the other side, and we should be kind of able to see, you can see a little bit off center, so I'm going to adjust until this is about center. So I've got the laser where I want it, so now I'm going to take a measurement with my tape measure, attaching it to the frame, keeping it level. So we want to make sure we go to the same point on the other side, and we can see a distance here. So I'm at like a foot and maybe a 1/16 of an inch, right? And then go around to the other side, find that same point on the frame. Let's see. Oh, tape measure's magnetic and caught. There we go. Gotta turn it around. So this looks like it is, only like 11 1/4. So you see, so basically now what I'm gonna do is extend this, the passenger lower control arm until I can push this one out a bit. Okay, so once we're satisfied that we have the same distance here, we're just going to snug up these tightening bolts right here, and then we're going to move on to centering the axle. So what I did is you want to measure from two common points on either your bumper or the frame. So I did it with 2 points. I'm hoping you guys can see. So there's actually a pencil mark right there. Maybe you can see it better without the level. So that was where I marked my halfway point. So then I took this other laser. You got to rotate the base around so it points to the bottom. Got it to line up there, and it's going to point to the bottom right there. And then I'm going to make a mark on the floor where that laser is, so we know that that's the midpoint on the vehicle right now. So now I'm going to go around and do the same thing in the rear of the vehicle. So I'm going to have to find two common points. Make a measurement, find the midway point, and get that laser down here, get another mark on the floor, so then we can take this line level across and make a full center line. I've got things holding my chalk reel down. That's over the first line, and then we're going to come over here, make sure this is over my other line. And there we go, we have our faint but center line. Okay, so now what I need to do is find the center of the axle. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use two measuring points, the outside of the sway bar mounts, and then I got this laser, and I'm going to find the middle on the tape measure and make the laser line up, and that way I can mark the center point with the pencil on like the axle itself. So let's see. Alright, hopefully you guys can see this. So my measurement from end to end is 39 and just about 1/4. So I'm looking for in between, like, I guess it'd be 19 and 9/16. And I've got it right there. So now I'm just going to take a pencil and make a mark. You can see it's kind of right at the edge of the differential casing. Hopefully you guys can see that a little better. But this is where my mark is. What I did is I set up this laser to be right following that line that we made on the floor, and you can see where the laser ends up on the axle. So my whole axle needs to shift towards driver just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is unbolt the track bar and use a ratchet strap to push it, and then we'll re-bolt the track bar. Once we're done with that, the axle center. Next step is we're going to adjust the toe. So that's just simply adjusting this tie rod, which should be adjustable. So what I've done is put 2 straight edges on either side, and I'm just going to measure from inside to inside in the front and in the rear. And then, so you want your toe to toe in. I have a whole nother video on this if you feel like getting more in depth, but basically the front should be about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch narrower than in the rear. And then again, you adjust that just by loosening the clamps on the tie rod and then getting a pipe wrench and spinning it. Once your toe in set, very similar to what we just did, you can get the steering wheel perfectly straight with the wheels pointed ahead by doing nearly the exact same thing by loosening and using a pipe wrench on the drag link. Let me get the light right here. But so for me, I think that the real fine tuning of the steering wheel, you have to drive it a little bit to know. So I'm going to wait and just do that at the very end after I drive it. It's real easy to do. The next thing we're going to do is adjust caster. So you can see I have this small angle finder right here. So caster is a measure of the distance between the top of this C, this ball joint, and the bottom, right? So you want that angle, you want the top to be rearward of the bottom. It helps your wheels return to center after steering. So you kind of get different values, but I think the general consensus is you want about 6 degrees of caster. So what we want is for this, so you can see right now I have 2.8 degrees. That means that this is slightly in front of the other one. So we want this to get up to 6. So to do that, we're going to lower shorten the upper control arms. And so we're going to do that little by little, doing 1 turn on each, so that way we kind of keep them the same. So this is what I had to do to help me find caster. It took me a while to figure out. So 1, remove the Zerk fitting. It's a 5/16. Then I got a level, made a line at the center mark. I also measured the middle of this and made a mark there. And then I would line those up and just make sure it was even front to back. And I measured it and I got them right around 5.75 is what I decided to go with, and just make sure they're both the same. And then we're going to tighten the upper control arms. They are 1 1/8 inch, the jam nuts. However, they're actually quite hard to reach, and my big crescent wrench over there isn't going to cut it, so I'm going to have to go out and get them. But anyway, the next step is back to what we did in the beginning. So we're going to get that laser and line it up with this. And make sure that the distance is the same again. That'll be our final adjustment of the control arms. We'll tighten the lower ones, and then we'll be all done with the front. We're barely off. I only had to make 1 tiny adjustment, but when you're tightening the jam nuts, they're 1 7/16 inch. I'm using this giant crescent. Now moving to the rear, I'm doing the same thing. So everything started at about the same length. The wheel well centered, and I'm using the frame hole as a mark, and I'm going to adjust these lower control arms, making sure that it's about the same length. Making sure the axle is square to the frame. So for the rear, here's where I chose. I chose to use this the shock mount as the measuring point, and I got like 35 7/8, so it came out to it's kind of hard to film with one hand. It came out to like just shy of 18 inches. I made a mark. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can barely see it, honestly. I need to make a better mark. We're going to do the same thing. So we'll get our long line, make sure it meshes with the blue line that we use the chalk for, and then we're going to disconnect the sway bar. It's a T55 Torx. Sorry, not the sway bar, the track bar. It's a T55 Torx. And then use ratchet straps to get the axle where we want it. And yeah, that'll be it. So you see I used 2 ratchet straps around this tire and around the frame here. We're back under the vehicle, so my axle should be squared, my axle's centered. Now I got to adjust this pinion angle. So what you want is you want the pinion angle. So you're going to measure it right here on the pinion and then here on the drive shaft. And what you want is for this to be just about 1 degree less than what this reads, so that to account for some flex. So what I'm going to do is just carefully adjust these upper control arms. I'm lengthening them to rotate this way and rotate the pinion upwards until, like I said, until they're within 1 degree of each other. And then you'll see it'll be, instead of such a bend, it'll be more straight. And again, we can only really do this such a steep angle because I have the Rubicon 241J and I have no slip yoke. If you had a slip yoke, you would definitely want to at least get a slip yoke eliminator. But yeah, and so then once we're done with that, we're going to tighten the upper control arms, then check, make sure the axle's square again, and then that should be it. While getting this set up, I got everything was extended too far. My track bar was actually contacting the gasket, so I actually had to shorten my lower control arms both by the same amount. So I shortened them both by like 3/4 of an inch, then went back to adjusting the uppers, and I got the pinion angle to be about like 21 degrees and 22 degrees ish. So now I'm just gonna tighten the uppers, and then I'm gonna redo my check through the frame hole for the lowers, then tighten those, and then that should be it.